pike coming upon her, the Devi hurled her pike that shattered his pike into 100 fragments, and the great Asura himself. Mahishasura's very valiant general having been killed, Chamara, the afflictor of Devas, mounted on an elephant, advanced. He also hurled his spear at the Devi. Ambika quickly assailed it with a whoop, made it lusterless, and fell to the ground. Seeing his spear broken and fallen, Chamara, full of rage, flung a pike, and she split that also with her arrows. Then the lion, leaping up and seating itself at the center of the elephant's forehead, engaged itself in a hand-to-hand combat with that foe of the Devas. Fighting, the two of them came down to the earth from the back of the elephant and fought very impetuously, dealing the most terrible blows at each other. Then the lion, springing up quickly to the sky and descending, severed Chamara's head with a blow from its paw. And Udagra was killed in a battle by the Devi with stones, trees, and the like. And Karala also was stricken down by her teeth and fists and slaps. Enraged, the Devi ground Ud at her to powder with the blows of her club and killed Baskala with a dart and destroyed Tamra and Andaka with arrows. The three-eyed Supreme Ishvara killed Ugratsya and Ugravirya and Mahahanu also with her trident. With her sword she struck down Bidala's head from his body and dispatched both Dudara and Dumruka to the abode of death with her arrows. As his army was thus destroyed, Mahishasura terrified the troops of the Devi with his own buffalo form. Some he laid low by a blow of his muzzle, some by stamping with his hooves, some by the lashes of his tail, and others by the spokes of his horns. Some he laid low on the face of the earth by his impetuous speed, some by his bellowing and wheeling movement, and others by the blast of his breath. Having laid low her army, Mahishasura rushed to slay the lion of the Mahadevi. Thus enraged Ambika. Mahishasura, great in valor, pounded the surface of the earth with his hooves in rage, tossed up the high mountains with his horns, and bellowed terribly. Crushed by the velocity of his wheeling, the earth disintegrated, and lashed by his tail, the sea overflowed all around. Pierced by his swaying horns, the clouds went into fragments. Cast up by the blast of his breath, mountains fell down from the sky in hundreds. Seeing the great Asura swollen with rage and advancing towards her, Chandika displayed her wrath in order to slay him. She flung her noose over him and bound the great Asura. Thus bound in the great battle, he quitted his buffalo form. Then he became a lion suddenly. While Ambika cut off the head of his lion form, he took the appearance of a man with sword in hand. Immediately, then the Devi with her arrows chopped off the man together with his sword and shield. Then he became a big elephant. The elephant tugged at her great lion with his trunk and roared loudly, but as he was dragging, the Devi cut off his trunk with her sword. The great Asura then resumed his buffalo shape and shook the three worlds with her movable and immovable objects. Enraged thereat, Chandika, the mother of the worlds, quaffed a divine drink again and laughed, her eyes becoming red. And the Asura also roared, intoxicated with his strength and valor, and hurled mountains against Chandika with his horns. And she, with the showers of arrows, pulverized those mountains, hurled at her, and spoke to him in flooded words, the color of her face accentuated with the intoxication of the divine drink. The Devi said, "Roar, roar, O fool, for a moment while I drink this wine, when you will be slain by me. The Devas will soon roar in this very place." The Rishi said, having exclaimed thus, she jumped and landed herself on that great Asura, pressed him on the neck with her foot, and struck him with her spear. And thereupon, caught up under her foot, Mahishasura half issued forth in his real form from his own buffalo mouth, being completely overcome by the valor of the Devi. Fighting thus with his half-revealed form, the great Asura was slain by the Devi, who struck off his head with her great sword. Then, crying in consternation, the whole Asura army perished, and all the hosts of Devas were in great exaltation. With the great sages of heaven, the Devas praised the Devi, the Gandharva chiefs sang, and the bevies of Apsaras danced. Here ends the third chapter, called The Slaying of Mahishasura of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Sarvani, the Manu. The Rishi said, when that most valiant but evil-natured Mahishasura and the army of that foe of the Devas were destroyed by the Devi, Indra and the hosts of Devas uttered their words of praise, their necks and shoulders reverently bent, and bodies rendered beautiful with horripilation and exaltation. To that Ambika who is worthy of worship by all Devas and sages, and pervades this world by her powers, and who is the embodiment of the entire powers of all the hosts of Devas, we bow in devotion. May she grant us auspicious things. May Chandika, whose incomparable greatness and power Bhagavan Vishnu Brahmanhara are unable to describe, bestow her mind on protecting the entire world and on destroying the fear of evil. O Devi, we bow before you, who are yourself good fortune in the dwellings of the virtuous, and ill fortune in those of the vicious, intelligence in the hearts of the learned, faith in the hearts of the good, and modesty in the hearts of the highborn. May you protect the universe. O Devi, how can we describe your inconceivable form, or your abundant surpassing valor that destroys the asuras, or your wonderful feats displayed in battles among all the hosts of gods, asuras and others? You are the origin of all the worlds. Though you are possessed of the three gunas, you are not known to have any of their attendant defects, like passion. You are incomprehensible even to Vishnu, Shiva and others. You are the resort of all. This entire world is composed of an infinitesimal portion of yourself. You are verily the supreme primordial Prakriti, untransformed. O Devi, you are Svaha, at whose utterance the whole assemblage of gods attains satisfaction in all the sacrifices. You are the Svada, which gives satisfaction to the manis. Therefore you are chanted as Svaha and Svada in sacrifices by the people. O Devi, you are Bhagavati, the supreme Vidya, which is the cause of liberation, and great inconceivable penances are the means for your realization. You are the supreme knowledge, cultivated by sages desiring liberation, whose senses are well restrained, who are devoted to reality, and have shed all the blemishes. You are the soul of Sabda Brahman. You are the repository of the very pure Rik and Yagni hymns, and of summons, the recital of whose words is beautiful with the Udgita. You are Bhagavati, embodying the three Vedas, and you are the sustenance whereby life is maintained. You are the supreme destroyer of all the pain of all the worlds. O Devi, you are the intellect by which the essence of all scriptures is comprehended. You are Durga, the boat that takes men across the difficult ocean of worldly existence, devoid of attachments. You are Shri, who has invariably taken her abode in the heart of Vishnu. You are indeed Gauri, who has established herself with Shiva. Gently smiling, pure, resembling the full moon's orb, beautiful like the splendor of excellent gold was your face. Yet it was very strange that, being swayed by anger, Mahishasura suddenly struck your face when he saw it. Far strange it is that after seeing your wrathful face, O Devi, terrible with its frowns and red in hue like the rising moon, that Mahishasura did not forthwith give up his life. For who can live after beholding the enraged destroyer? O Devi, be propitious. You are supreme. If enraged, you forthwith destroy the Asura families for the welfare of the world. This was known the very moment when the extensive forces of Mahishasura were brought to their end. You who are always bounteous, with whom you are well pleased, those fortunate ones are indeed the object of esteem in the country. Theirs are riches, theirs are glories, and their acts of righteousness perish not. They are indeed blessed and possessed of devoted children, servants, and wives. By your grace, O Devi, the blessed individual does daily all righteous deeds and with utmost care, and thereby attains to heaven. Are you not, therefore, O Devi, the bestower of reward in all the three worlds? When called to mind in a difficult pass, you remove fear for every person. When called to mind by those in happiness, you bestow a mind still further pious. Which goddess but you, dispeller of poverty, pain, and fear, has an ever sympathetic heart, or for helping everyone? The world attains happiness by the killing of these fools, and though these asuras have committed sins to keep them long in hell, let them reach heaven by meeting death eventually at the battle with me, thinking thus that you, O Devi, certainly destroy our enemies. Don't you reduce to ashes all asuras by mere sight, but you direct your weapons against them so that even the inimical ones, purified by the missiles, may attain the higher worlds. Such is your most kindly attention towards them. If the eyes of the asuras had not been put out by the terrible flashes of the massive light issuing from your sword, or by the copious luster of your spear point, it is because they saw also your face resembling the moon, giving out cool rays. O Devi, your nature is to subdue the conduct of the wicked. This your peerless beauty is inconceivable for others. Your power destroys those who have robbed the devas of their prowess, and you have thus manifested your compassion even towards the enemies. What is your prowess to be compared to? Where can one find this beauty of yours, most charming yet striking fear in enemies? Compassion in heart and relentlessness in battle are seen. O Devi, O bestower of boons, only in you, in all the three worlds. Through the destruction of the enemies, all these three worlds have been saved by you. Having killed them in the battlefront, you have led even those hosts of enemies to heaven, and you have dispelled our fear from the frenzied enemies of the Devas. Salutations to you. O Devi, protect us with your spear. O Ambika, protect us with your sword. Protect us by the sound of your bell and by the twang of your bowstring. O Chandika, guard us in the east, in the west, in the north, and in the south by the brandishing of your spear, O Ishwari. Protect us in the earth with those lovely forms of yours, moving about in the three worlds, as also with your excludingly terrible forms. O Ambika, protect us on every side with your sword, spear, and club, and whatever other weapons your sprout-like soft hand has touched. The Rishi said, thus the supporter of the worlds was praised by the Devas, worshipped with celestial flowers that blossomed in Nandana, and with perfumes and unguents, and with devotion, all of them, offered her heavenly incense. Benignly serene in countenance, she spoke to all obeisant Devas. The Devi said, choose all of you, O Devas, whatever you desire of me. Gratified immensely with these hymns, I granted with great pleasure. The Devas said, since our enemy, this Mahishasura, has been slain by Bhagavati, everything has been accomplished and nothing remains to be done. And if a boon is to be granted to us by you, Maheshwari, whenever we think of you again, destroy our direct calamities. O Mother of spotless countenance, and whatever mortal shall praise you with these hymns, may you, who have become gracious towards us, be also with his increase in his wealth, wife, and other fortunes, together with riches, prosperity, and life, O Ambika. The Rishi said, O King, being thus propitiated by the Devas for the sake of the world, and for their own sake, Bhadrakali said, be it so, and vanished from their sight. Thus have I narrated, O King, how the Devi, who desires the good of all in the three worlds, made her appearance of yore out of the bodies of the Devas. And again how, as a benefactress of the Devas, she appeared in the form of Gauri for the slaying of wicked Asuras, as well as Shumba and Shumba, and for the protection of worlds. Listen as I relate it. I shall tell it to you as it happened. Here ends the 4th chapter, called Praises by the Sakra and Others, of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savari, the moon. I meditate on the incomparable Mahasaraswati, who holds in her 8 lotus-like hands bell, trident, plough, conch, mace, discus, bow and arrow, who is effulgent like the moon shining at the fringe of a cloud, who is the destroyer of Shumba and other asuras, who issued forth from Parvati's body and is the substrator of the three worlds. The Rishi said, of yore, Indra's sovereignty over the three worlds and his portion of the sacrifices were taken away by the asuras, Shumba and Shumba, by force of their pride and strength. The two themselves took over likewise the offices of the sun, the moon, Kubera, Yama, and Varuna. They themselves exercised Vayu's authority and Agni's duty. Deprived of their lordships and sovereignties, the Devas were defeated. Deprived of their functions and expelled by these two great Asuras, all the Devas thought of the invincible Devi. She had granted us the boon, whenever in calamities you think of me, that very moment I will put an end to all your worst calamities. Resolving thus, the Devas went to Himavat, Lord of the Mountains, and there extolled the Devi, who is the elusive power of Vishnu. The Devas said, salutation to the Devi, to Mahadevi, salutations always to her who is ever auspicious. Salutations to her who is the primordial cause and the sustaining power. With attention we have made obeisance to her. Salutation to her who is terrible, to her who is eternal. Salutation to Gauri, the supporter of the universe. Salutation always to her who is of the form of the moon and moonlight and happiness itself. We bow to her who is welfare. We make salutations to her who is prosperity and success. Salutations to the consort of Shiva, who is herself the good fortune as well as misfortune of all kings. Salutations always to Durga, who takes one across in difficulties, who is essence, who is the author of everything, who is knowledge of discrimination, who is blue-black as also smoke-like in complexion, We prostrate before her who is at once most gentle and most terrible. We salute her again and again. Salutation to her who is the support of the world. Salutations to the Devi who is the form of volition. Salutations again and again to the Devi who in all beings is called Vishnu Maya. Salutations again and again to the Devi who abides in all beings as consciousness. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of intelligence. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of sleep. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of hunger. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of reflection. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of power. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of thirst. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of forgiveness. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of Janus. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of modesty. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of peace. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of faith. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of loveliness. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of good fortune. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of activity. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of memory. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of compassion. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of contentment. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of mother. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of error. To the all-pervading Devi who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Salutations again and again to her who, pervading this entire world, abides in the form of consciousness, invoked of yore by the Devas for the sake of their desired object, and adored by the Lord of all the Devas every day. May she, the Ishvari, the source of all good, accomplish for us all auspicious things, and put an end to our calamities. And who is now again reverenced by us, Devas, tormented by arrogant Asuras, and who, called to mind by us, obeisant with devotion, destroys this very moment all our calamities. The Rishi said, O Prince, while the Devas were thus engaged in praises and other acts of adoration, Parvati came there to bathe in the waters of the Ganga. She, the lovely browed, said to those Devas, Who is praised by you here? An auspicious goddess, sprung forth from your physical sheath, gave the reply. This hymn is addressed to me by the assembled Devas, set at naught by the Asura, Shumba, and routed in battle by Nishumba. Because that Ambika came out of Parvati's physical sheath, Kusha, she is glorified as Kaushiki in all the worlds. After she had issued forth, Parvati became dark and was called Kalika and stationed on Mount Himalaya. Then Chanda and Munda, two servants of Shumba and Nishumba, saw that Ambika, Kaushiki, bearing a surpassingly charming form. They both told Shumba, O king, a certain woman most surpassingly beautiful dwells there, shedding luster on Mount Himalaya. Such supreme beauty was never seen by anyone anywhere. Ascertain who that goddess is and take possession of her, O Lord of the Asuras. A gem among women of exquisitely beautiful limbs, illuminating the quarters with her luster, there she is, O Lord of the deities, you should see her. O Lord, whatever jewels, precious stones, elephants, horses and others there are in the three worlds, they are all now in your house. Aravata, gem among elephants, has been brought away from Indra, and so also this Parijata tree, and the horse, Uche Shravas. Here stands in your courtyard the wonderful chariot yoked with swans, a wonderful gem of its class. It has been brought here from Brahma, to whom it originally belonged. Here is the treasure named Mahapadma, brought from the Lord of Wealth, and the ocean gave a garland named Kinjalkini, made of unfading lotus flowers. In your house stands the gold-showering umbrella Varuna, and here's the excellent chariot that was formerly Prajapati's. By you, O Lord, Death's Shakti weapon named Uttrakantida has been carried off. The noose of the Ocean King is among your brother's possessions. Nishumba has every kind of gem produced in the sea. Fire also gave you two garments, which are purified by fire. Thus, O Lord of Asuras, all gems have been brought by you. Why this beautiful lady jewel is not seized by you? The Rishi said, on hearing these words of Chanda and Munda, Shumba sent the great Asura Sugriva as messenger to the Devi. He said, "Go and tell her thus in my words, and do the thing in such a manner that she may quickly come to me in love." He went there where the Devi was staying, in a very beautiful spot on the mountain, and spoke to her in fine and sweet words. The messenger said, "O Devi, Shumba, Lord of Asuras, is the supreme sovereign of 3 worlds, sent by him as messenger. I have come here to your presence. Hearken to what has been said by him whose command is never resisted among the Devas, and who has vanquished all the fools of the Asuras. He says, all the 3 worlds are mine, and the Devas are obedient to me. I enjoy all the fruits and sacrifices separately. All the choicest gems in the 3 worlds are in my possession, and so is this gem of elephants, Airavata, the vehicle of the king of Devas carried away by me. The Devas themselves offer to me with salutations that gem of horses named Ravas, arose out the churning of the milk ocean. O beautiful lady, whatever other rare objects there existed among the Devas, Gandhavas and Nagas are now with me. We look upon you, O Devi, as the jewel of womankind in the world. You who are such, come to me, since we are the enjoyers of the best objects. Take to me or to my younger brother, Nishumba, of great prowess. O unsteady-eyed lady, for you are in truth a jewel. Wealth great and beyond compare you will get by marrying me. Think over this in your mind and become my wife." The Rishi said, "Thus told, Durga, the adorable and auspicious, by whom this universe is supported, then became serene and said." The Devi said, "You have spoken truth. Nothing false has been uttered by you in this matter. Shumba is indeed the sovereign of the 3 worlds, and likewise is also Nishumba. But in this matter, how can that which has been promised be made false? Hear what promise I had made already out of foolishness. He who conquers me in battle, removes my pride, and is my match in strength in the world, shall be my husband. So let Shumba come here then, or Nishumba, the great Asura. Vanquishing me here, let him soon take my hand in marriage. Why delay?" The messenger said, "O Devi, you are haughty. Talk not so before me. Which man in the 3 worlds will stand before Shumba and Nishumba? All the Devas verily cannot stand face to face with even the other Suras in battle. Why mention you, O Devi, a single woman? Indra and all the other Devas could not stand in battle against Shumba and other demons. How will you, a woman, face them? On my word itself, you go to Shumba and Nishumba. Let it not be that you go to them with your dignity lost by being dragged by your hair." The Devi said, "Yes, it is. Shumba is strong, and so is Nishumba exceedingly heroic. What can I do, since there stands my ill-considered vow taken long ago? Go back and tell the Lord of Asuras carefully all this that I have said. Let him do whatever he considers proper." Here ends the 5th chapter. The Rishi said, the messenger, filled with indignation on hearing the words of the Devi, returned and related them in detail to the king of the Daityas. Then the Asura monarch, enraged on hearing that report from his messenger, told Dhumra Lochana, a chieftain of the Daityas, "O Dhumra Lochana, hasten together with your army and fetch her by force, that shrew distressed when dragged by her hair. Or, if any one else stands up as her savior, let him be slain, be he a god, a yaksha, or a gandhava." The Rishi said, Then the Asura Dhumralochana, commanded thus by Shumba, went forth quickly, accompanied by 60,000 Asuras. On seeing the Devi stationed on the snowy mountain, he asked her aloud, "Come to the presence of Shumba and Nishumba. If you will not go to my lord with pleasure now, here I take you by force, distressed when dragged by your hair." The Devi said, "You are sent by the Lord of the Asuras, mighty yourself, and accompanied by an army. If you thus take me by force, then what can I do to you?" The Rishi said, thus told, the Asura Dhumralochana rushed towards her, and thereupon Ambika reduced him to ashes with a mere heave of the sound hum. Then the great army of Asuras became enraged and showered on Ambika sharp arrows, javelins, and axes. Then the lion, vehicle of the Devi, shaking its mane in anger and making the most terrific roar, fell on the army of the Asuras. Some Asuras it slaughtered with a blow of its forepaw, others with its mouth, and other great Asuras by treading over it with its hind legs. The lion with its claws tore out the hearts of some and severed heads with a blow of the paw, and it severed arms and heads from others, and shaking its mane drank the blood from the hearts of others. In a moment all that army was destroyed by that high-spirited and exceedingly enraged lion who bore the Devi. When Shumba, the lord of Asuras, heard that Asura Dhumralochana was slain by the Devi, and all his army was destroyed by the lion of the Devi, he was infuriated, his lip quivered, and he commanded the two mighty Asuras, Chanda and Munda, O Chanda, O Munda, go there with large forces and bring her here speedily, dragging her by her hair or binding her. But if you have any doubt about doing that, then let the Asuras strike her in the fight with all their weapons. When that shrew is wounded and her lion stricken down, seize that her, bind and bring her quickly. Here ends the 6th chapter, called The Slaying of Dhumralochana of Devi Mahatmya in Markandeya Purana during the period of Shravani, the month. The Rishi said, then at his command the Asuras, full armed and with Chanda and Munda at their head, marched in fourfold array. They saw the Devi smiling gently, seated upon the lion on a huge golden peak of the great mountain. On seeing her, some of them excited themselves and made an effort to capture her, and others approached her with their bows bent and swords drawn. Thereupon Ambika became terribly angry with those fools, and in her anger her countenance then became dark as ink. Out from the surface of her forehead, fierce with frown, issued suddenly Kali of terrible countenance, armed with a sword and noose, bearing the strange skull-top staff, decorated with garland of skulls, clad in a tiger's skin, very appalling owing to her emaciated flesh, with gaping mouth, fearful, with her tongue lolling out, having deep-sunk reddish eyes, and filling the regions of the sky with her roars, and falling about impetuously, and slaughtering the great Asuras in that army. She devoured those hosts of the fools of the Devas. Snatching the elephants with one hand, she flung them into her mouth, together with their rear men and drivers and their warrior riders and bells, taking likewise into her mouth the cavalry with the horses and chariot with its driver. She ground them most frightfully with her teeth. She seized one by the hair and another by the neck. One she crushed by the weight of her foot and another of her body. And she caught with her mouth the weapons and the great arms shot by those Asuras, and crunched them up with her teeth in her fury. She destroyed all that host of mighty and evil-natured Asuras, devoured them, and battered others. Some were killed with her sword, some were beaten with her skull-top staff, and other Asuras met their death, being ground with the edge of her teeth. On seeing all the hosts of Asuras laid low in a moment, Chanda rushed against that Kali, who was exceedingly terrible. The great Asura, Chanda, with very terrible showers of arrows, and Munda, with discus hurled in thousands, covered that terrible-eyed Devi. Those numerous discuses disappearing into her mouth looked like numerous solar orbs disappearing into the midst of the cloud. Thereat Kali, who was roaring frightfully, whose fearful teeth were gleaming within her dreadful mouth, laughed terribly with exceeding fury. Then the Devi, mounted upon her great lion, rushed at Chanda, and seizing him by his hair, severed his head with her sword. Seeing Chanda laid low, Munda also rushed at her. She felled him also to the ground, striking him with her sword in her fury. Seeing the most valiant Chanda Munda laid low, the remaining army there became panicky and fled in all directions. And Kali, holding the heads of Chanda and Munda in her hands, approached Chandika and said, her words mingled with very loud laughter, "Here have I brought you the heads of Chanda Munda as two great animals' offerings in this sacrifice of battle. Shumba and Nishumba you shall yourself slay." The Rishi said, thereupon seeing those Asuras, Chanda and Munda, brought to her, the auspicious Chandika said to Kali these playful words, "Because you have brought me both Chanda and Munda, you, O Devi, shall be famed in the world by the name Chamunda." Here ends the 7th chapter, called The Slaying of Chanda and Munda of Devi Mahatmya in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni, the month. The Rishi said, after the deity Chanda was slain and Munda was laid low, and many of the battalions were destroyed, the lord of the Asuras, powerful Shumba, with mind overcome by anger, commanded then the mobilization of all the Daitya hosts. Now let the 86 Asuras, upraising their weapons with all their forces, and the 84 Kambus, surrounded by their own forces, go out. Let the 50 Asura families of Kotiviryas and the 100 families of Daumaryas go forth at my command. Let the Asuras Kalakas, Darhridas, the Mauryas, and the Kalikayas hasten at my command and march forth ready for battle. After issuing these orders, Shumba, the lord of the Asuras and a ferocious ruler, went forth attended by many thousands of big forces. Seeing that most terrible army coming, Chandika filled into space between the earth and the sky with a twang of her bowstring. Thereon her lyre made an exceedingly loud roar. O king, and Ambika magnified those roars with the clanging of her bell. Kali, expanding her mouth wide and filling the quarters with the sound hum, overwhelmed the noises of her bowstring, lion and bell by her terrific roars. On hearing that roar, the enraged Asura battalion surrounded the lion, the Devi, Chandika, and Kali on all the four sides. At this moment, O king, in order to annihilate our enemies of Devas and for the well-being of the supreme Devas, there issued forth, endowed with exceeding vigor and strength, Shaktis from the bodies of Brahma, Shiva, Guha, Vishnu, and Indra, and with the form of those Devis went into Chandika. Whatever was the form of each Deva, and whatever his ornaments and vehicle, in that very form his Shakti advanced to fight with Asuras. In a heavenly chariot drawn by swans advanced Brahma Shakti, carrying a rosary, and Kamandalu, she is called Brahmani. Maheshvari arrived seated on a bull, holding a fine trident, wearing bracelets of great snakes, and adorned with a digit of the moon. Ambika Kaumari, in the form of Guha, holding a spear in hand, riding on a fine peacock, advanced to attack the Asuras. Likewise the Shakti of Vishnu came, seated upon Garuda, holding conch, club, bow and sword in her hand. The Shakti of Hari, who assumed the incomparable form of a sacrificial boar, also advanced, there in a boar-like form. Narasimhi arrived there, assuming a body like that of Narasimha, bringing down the constellation by the toss of her mane. Likewise the thousand-eyed Aindri, holding a thunderbolt in hand and riding on the lord of the elephants, arrived just like Sakara, Indra. Then Shiva, surrounded by those Shaktis of the Devas, said to Chandika, "Let the Asuras be killed forthwith by you for my gratification." Thereupon from the body of Devi issued forth the Shakti of Chandika, most terrific, exceedingly fierce, and yelling like 100 jackals. And that invincible Shakti told Shiva, of dark-coloured matterlocks, "Go, my lord, as ambassador to the presence of Shumba and Nishumba. Tell the two haughty Asuras, Shumba and Nishumba, and the other Asuras assembled there for battle. Let Indra obtain the 3 worlds, and let the Devas enjoy the sacrificial oblations. You go to the netherworld if you wish to live. But if through pride of strength you are anxious for battle, come on then. Let my jackals be satiated with your flesh." Because that Devi appointed Shiva himself as ambassador, thenceforth she became renowned in the world as Shiva Duti. Those great Asuras, on their part, hearing the words of the Devi communicated by Shiva, were filled with indignation and went there where Katyayani stood. Then in the very beginning the enraged fools of the Devas poured in front on the Devi showers of arrows, javelins and spears, and lightly with the huge arrows shot from her a full-drawn bow, she clove those arrows, spears, darts and axes hurled by them. Then in front of him Shumba stalked Kali, piercing the enemies to pieces with her spear and crushing them with her skull-topped staff. And Brahmani, wherever she moved, made the enemies bereft of valor and prowess by sprinkling on them the water from her Kamandalu. The very wrathful Maheshwari slew the deities with her trident, and Vaishnavi with her discus, and Kaumari with her javelin. Torn to pieces by the thunderbolt which came down upon them, hurled by Andri, deities and Danavas fell on the earth in hundreds, streams of blood flowing out of them. Shattered by the boar-formed goddess, Varahi, with blows of her snout, wounded in their chests by the point of her tusks, and torn by her discus, their Asuras fell down. Narasimhi, filling all the quarters and the sky with her roars, roamed about in the battle, devouring other great Asuras torn by her claws. Demoralized by the violent laughter of Shivaduti, the Asuras fell down on the earth. She then devoured them who had fallen down. Seeing the enraged band of Matras crushing the great Asuras thus by various means, the troops of the enemies of Devas took to their heels. Seeing the Asuras harassed by the band of Matras and fleeing the great Asura, Raktabija strode forward to fight in wrath. Whenever from his body there fell to the ground a drop of blood, at that moment rose up from the earth Asura of his stature. The great Asura fought with Indra's Shakti with club in his hand. Then Indri also struck Raktabija with her thunderbolt. Blood flowed quickly and profusely from him who was wounded by the thunderbolt. From the blood rose up fresh combatants of his form and valor. As many drops of blood fell from his body, so many persons came into being with his courage, strength and valor. And those persons also sprung up from his blood, fought there with Mata, in more dreadful manner, hurling the very formidable weapons. And again, when his head was wounded by the fall of her thunderbolt, his blood flowed, and therefrom were born persons in thousands. Vaishnavi struck him with her discus in the battle. Indri beat that lord of Asuras with her club. The world was pervaded by the thousands of great Asuras who were of his stature, and who rose up from the blood that flowed from him when cloven by the discus of Vaishnavi. Kaumari struck the great Asura Raktabija with her spear, Varahi with her sword, Maheshwari with her trident. And Raktabija, that great Asura also, filled with wrath, struck every one of the martyrs severally with his club. From the stream of blood which fell on the earth from him, when he received multiple wounds by the spears, darts, and other weapons, hundreds of Asuras came into being. And those Asuras that were born from the blood of Raktabija pervaded the whole world. The Devas got intensely alarmed at this. Seeing the Devas dejected, Chandika laughed and said to Kali, "O Chamunda, open out your mouth wide. With this mouth quickly take in the drops of blood generated by the blow of my weapon, and also the great Asuras born of the drops of blood of Raktabija. Roam about in the battlefield, devouring the great Asuras that spring from him. So shall this Daitya with his blood emptied perish. As you go on devouring these, other fierce Asuras will not be born." Having enjoined her thus, the Devi next smote him Raktabija with her dart. Then Kali drank Raktabija's blood with her mouth. Then and there he struck Chandika with his club. The blow of his club caused her not even the slightest pain. From his stricken body, wherever blood flowed copiously, there Chamunda swallowed it with her mouth. The Chamunda devoured those great Asuras who sprang up from the flow of blood in her mouth, and drank his Raktabija's blood. The Devi Kaushiki smote Raktabija with her dart, thunderbolt, arrows, swords, and spears, when Chamunda went on drinking his blood. Stricken with a multitude of weapons and bloodless, the great Asura, Raktabija, fell on the ground, O king. Thereupon the Devas attained great joy, O king. The band of martyrs who sprung from them danced, being intoxicated with blood. Here ends the 8th chapter, called The Slaying of Raktabija of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana, during the period of Savarani, the Manu. The king Surata said, "Wonderful is this that you, adorable sir, have related to me about the greatness of the Devi's acts in slaying Raktabija. I wish to hear further what the very irate Shumba and Nishumba did after Raktabija was killed." The Rishi said, after Raktabija was slain and other Asuras were killed in the fight, the Asura Shumba and Nishumba gave way to unbounded wrath. Enraged on seeing his great army slaughtered, Nishumba then rushed forward with the chief forces of the Asuras. In front of him, behind him, and on both sides of him, great Asuras, enraged and biting their lips, advanced to slay the Devi. Shumba also, mighty in valor, went forward, surrounded with his own troops, to slay Chandika in his rage, after fighting with the martyrs. Then commenced severe combat between the Devi on one side, and on the other Shumba and Nishumba, who, like two thunderclouds, rained the most tempestuous shower of arrows on her. Chandika, with numerous arrows, quickly split the arrows shot by the two Asuras, and smote the two lords of Asuras on their limbs with her mass of weapons. Nishumba, grasping a sharp sword and a shining shield, struck the lion, the great carrier of the Devi, on the head. When her carrier was struck, the Devi quickly cut Nishumba's superb sword with a sharp-edged arrow, and also his shield, on which 8 moons were figured. When his shield was split and his sword too broken, the Asura hurled his spear, and that missile also, as it advanced towards her, was split into 2 by her discus. Then the Danava, Nishumba, swelling with wrath, seized a dart, and that also, as it came, the Devi parted with a blow of her fist. Then, brandishing his club, he flung it against the Chandika, cleft by the trident of the Devi. It also turned into ashes. Then the Devi assailed the heroic Danava, advanced with battle-axe in hand, and laid him low on the ground. When his brother Nishumba of terrific prowess fell to the ground, Nishumba got infuriated in the extreme, and strode forward to slay Ambika. Standing in his chariot and grasping excellent weapons in his long and incomparable 8 arms, he shone by pervading the entire sky. Seeing him approaching, the Devi blew her conch and made a twang of her bowstring, which was unbearable in the extreme. And the Devi filled all directions with the ringing of her bell, which destroys the strength of all the Daitya hosts. The lion filled the heaven, the earth, and the 10 quarters of the sky with loud roars, which made the elephants give up their violent rut. Then Kali, springing upwards in the sky, came down and struck the earth with both her hands. By its noise all the previous sounds were drowned. Shivaduti made a loud ominous peal of laughter. The Asuras were frightened by those sounds, and Shumba flew into an utmost rage. As Ambika said, "O evil-natured one, stop, stop!" The devastation in the sky cheered her with the words, "Be victorious." The spear, flaming most terribly and shining like a mass of fire, which Shumba approaching hurled was, as it was coming along, put out by a great firebrand from the Devi. The interspace between the 3 worlds was pervaded by Shumba's lion-like roar, but the dreadful thunderclap of the Devi smothered that, O king. The Devi split the arrows shot by Shumba, and Shumba also split the arrows discharged by her, each with her and his sharp arrows in hundreds and thousands. Then Chandika became angry and smote him with a trident. Wounded therewith, he fainted and fell to the ground. Then Nishumba, regaining consciousness, seized his bow and struck with arrows the Devi and Kali and the lion. And the Danuja Lord, the son of Diti, putting forth the myriad arms, covered Chandika with myriad discuses. Then Bhagavati Durga, the destroyer of difficulties and afflictions, became angry and split those discuses and those arrows with her own arrows. Thereupon Nishumba, surrounded by the Daitya hosts, swiftly seizing his club, rushed at Chandika to slay her. As he was just rushing at her, Chandika clove his club with her sharp-edged sword, and he took hold of a dart. As Nishumba, the afflictor of the Devas, was advancing with the dart in hand, Chandika pierced him in the heart with a swiftly hurled dart. From his Nishumba's heart that was pierced by the dart issued forth another person of great strength and valor, exclaiming at the Devi, "Stop!" Then the Devi, laughing aloud, severed the head of him who issued forth with her sword. Thereupon he fell to the ground. The lion then devoured those Asuras whose necks he had crushed with his fierce teeth, and Kali and Shivaduti devoured others. Some great Asuras perished, being pierced through by the spear of Kaumari. Others were repulsed by sprinkling of the water purified by the incantation of Brahmani. Others fell pierced by the trident wielded by Maheshwari. Some were powdered on the ground by the blows from the snout of Varahi. Some Danavas were cut to pieces by the discus of Vaishnavi, and others again by the thunderbolt discharged from the palm of Aindri. Some Asuras perished themselves, some fled from the great battle, and others were devoured by Kali, Shivaduti, and the lion. Here ends the 9th chapter, called the slaying of Nishumba of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarani and the Man. The Rishi said, seeing his brother Nishumba slain, who was dear to him as his life, and his army being slaughtered, Shumba angrily said, "O Durga, who are puffed up with the pride of strength, don't show your pride here. Though you are exceedingly haughty, you, resorting to the strength of others, fight." The Devi said, "I am all alone in the world here. Who else is there besides me? See, O vile one, these goddesses who are but my own powers entering into my own self." Then all those Brahmani and the rest were absorbed into the body of the Devi. Ambika alone then remained. The Devi said, "The numerous forms which I projected by my power here, those have been withdrawn by me, and now I stand alone. Be steadfast in combat." The Rishi said, then began a dreadful fight between them both, the Devi and Shumba, while all the Devas and Asuras looked on. With showers of arrows, with sharp weapons and frightful missiles, both engaged again in a combat that frightened all the worlds. Then the Lord of Deityas broke the divine missiles, which Ambika discharged in hundreds, with weapons that repulsed them. With fierce shout of hum and the like, Parameshwari playfully broke the excellent missiles that he discharged. Then the Asura covered the Devi with hundreds of arrows, and the Devi, in wrath, split his bow with her arrows. And when the bow was split, the Lord of the Deities took up his spear. With a discus, the Devi split that spear also in his hand. Next, the Supreme Monarch of the Deities, taking his sword bright like the sun and shining shield, bearing the images of 100 moons, rushed at the Devi at that moment. Just as he was rushing forward, Chandika split his sword with the sharp arrows shot from her bow, as also his shield as bright as the solar rays. With his steed slain, with his bow broken, without a charioteer, the Daitya then grasped his terrible mace, being ready to kill Ambika. With sharp arrows she split the mace of Shumba, who was rushing at her. Even then, raising his fist, he rushed swiftly at her. The Daitya Lord brought his fist down on the heart of the Devi, and the Devi also with her palm smote him on his chest. The Daitya king, wounded by the blow of her palm, fell on the earth, but immediately he rose up again. Seizing the Devi, he sprung up and mounted on high into the sky. There also Chandika, without any support, fought with him. Then the Daitya, Shumba, and Chandika fought as never before, with each other in the sky, in a close contact, which wrought surprise to the Siddhas and sages. Ambika then, after carrying on a close fight from a very long time with him, lifted him up, whirled him around, and flung him down on the earth. Flung thus, the evil-natured Shumba, reaching the earth and raising his fist, hastily rushed forward, desiring to kill Chandika. Seeing that the Lord of all the Daitya folk approaching the Devi, piercing him on the chest with a dart, threw him down on the earth. Pierced by the pointed dart of the Devi, he fell lifeless on the ground, shaking the entire earth with the seas, islands, and mountains. When that evil-natured Asura was slain, the universe became happy and regained perfect peace, and the sky grew clear. Flaming portent clouds that were in evidence before became tranquil, and the rivers kept within their courses when Shumba was stricken down there. When he had been slain, the minds of all the bands of devas became overjoyed, and the Gandharvas sang sweetly. Others sounded their instruments, and the bands of nymphs danced. Likewise favourable winds blew. The sun became very brilliant. The sacred fires blazed peacefully, and the tranquil became the strange sounds that had risen in different quarters. Here ends the 10th chapter, called The Slaying of Shumba of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana, during the period of Savarani, the Manu. The Rishi said, when the great lord of Asuras was slain there by the Devi, Indra and other devas, led by Agni, with their object fulfilled and their cheerful faces illumining the quarters, praised her, Katyayani. O Devi, you who remove the sufferings of your supplicants, be gracious. Be propitious, O Mother of the whole world. Be gracious, O Mother of the universe. Protect the universe. You are, O Devi, the rule of all that is moving and unmoving. You are the whole substratum of the world, because you subsist in the form of the earth. By you who exist in the shape of water, all this universe is gratified, O Devi of inviolable valor. You are the power of Vishnu and have endless valor. You are the primeval Maya, which is the source of the universe. By you all this universe has been thrown into an illusion, O Devi. If you become gracious, you become the cause of final emancipation in this world. All laws are your aspects, O Devi. So are all women in the world, endowed with various attributes. By you alone, the Mother, this world is filled. What praise can there be for you who are of the nature of primary and secondary expression regarding objects, worthy of praise? When you have been lauded as the embodiment of all beings, the Devi, the effulgent one, and bestow of the enjoyment and liberation, what words, however excellent, can praise you? Salutations be to you, O Devi Narayani, O you who abide as intelligence in the hearts of all creatures, and bestow enjoyment and liberation. Salutations be to you, Narayani, O you who in the form of minutes, moments, and other divisions of time bring about change in things, and have thus the power to destroy the universe. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are the good of all good, O auspicious Devi who accomplish every object, the giver of refuge, O three-eyed Gauri. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, you who have the power of creation, sustenance, and destruction, and are eternal. You are the substratum and embodiment of the three gunas. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are intent on saving the dejected and distressed that take refuge under you. O you, Devi, you remove the sufferings of all. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who ride in the heavenly chariot yoked with swans and assume the form of Brahmani. O Devi, who sprinkle water with kusum grass. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who bear the trident, the moon, and the serpent, and ride a big bull and have the form of Maheshwari. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are attended by peacock and cock, and bear a great spear, O you who are sinless and take the form of Kamari. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who hold the great weapons of conch, discus, club, and bow, and take the form of Vaishnavi, be gracious. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who grasp a huge formidable discus and uplift earth with thy tusk, O auspicious Devi who has a boar-like form. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who in the fierce form of man-lion put forth your efforts to slay the deities, O you who possess the benevolence of saving the three worlds. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, you who have a diadem and a great thunderbolt, are dazzling with 1,000 eyes, and took away the life of Vritra or Indri. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who in the form of Shivaduti slew the mighty hosts of the deities, O you of terrible form and loud roar. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who have a face terrible with tusks and are adorned with a garland of heads, Chamunda, O slayer of Munda. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are good fortune, modesty, great wisdom, faith, nourishment, and svada. O you who are immovable, O you great night and great illusion. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are intelligence and Sarasvati, O best one, prosperity, consort of Vishnu, dark one, nature, be propitious. O queen of all, you who exist in the form of all and possess every might, save us from error, O Devi. Salutations be to you, O Devi Durga. May this benign countenance of yours, adorned with three eyes, protect us from all fears. Salutations be to you, O Katyayani. terrible with flames exceedingly sharp, destroyer of all the asuras, may your trident guard us from fear. Salutations be to you, Bhadrakali. May your bell that fills the world with its ringing and destroys the powers of the deities guard us, O Devi, as a mother protects her children from all evils. May your sword smeared with the mire like blood and fat of asuras and gleaming with the rays be for our welfare, O Chandika, we bow to you. When satisfied, you destroy all illness, but when wrathful, you frustrate all the longed-for desires. No calamity befalls men who have sought you. Those who have sought you become verily a refuge of others. This slaughter that you, O Devi, multiplying your own form into many, have now wrought on the great asuras who hate righteousness, O Ambika, which other goddess can do that work? Who is there except you in the sciences, in the scriptures, and in the Vedic sayings that light the lamp of discrimination? Still you cause this universe to whirl about again and again within the dense darkness of the depths of attachment. Where rakshasas and snakes of violent poison, where fools and hosts of robbers exist, where forest conflagrations occur, there and in the mid-sea you stand and save the world. O Queen of the universe, you protect the universe. As the self of the universe, you support the universe. You are the goddess worthy to be adored by the Lord of the universe. Those who bow in devotion to you themselves become the refuge of the universe. O Devi, be pleased and protect us always from fear of fools, as you have done just now by the slaughter of asuras, and destroy quickly the sins of all the worlds and the great calamities which have sprung from the maturing of evil portents. O Devi, you who remove the afflictions of the universe, be gracious to us who have bowed to you. O you worthy of adoration by the dwellers of the three worlds, be boon giver to the worlds. The Devi said, O Devas, I am prepared to bestow a boon. Choose whatever boon you desire in your mind for the welfare of the world. I shall grant it. The Devi said, O Queen of all, in this same manner you must destroy all our enemies and all the afflictions of the three worlds. The Devi said, when the 28th age has arrived during the period of Vaishvasvata Manu, two other great asuras, Nusumba and Nushumba, will be born. Then born from the womb of Yashoda in the home of cowherd Nanda, and dwelling on the Vindhya mountains, I will destroy them both. And again, having incarnated in a very terrible form on the earth, I shall slay the Danavas, who are the descendants of Viprachiti. When I shall devour the fierce and great asuras descended from Viprachiti, my teeth shall become red like the flower of pomegranate. Therefore, when divins in heaven and men on earth praise me, shall always talk of me as the red-toothed. And again, when rain shall fail for a period of 100 years, propitiated by the Munis, I shall be born on the drought-ridden earth, by not womb begotten. Then I shall behold the Munis with 100 eyes, and so mankind shall glorify me as the 100-eyed. At that time, O Devas, I shall maintain the whole world with life-sustaining vegetables born out of my own cosmic body, till rains set in. I shall be famed on the earth then as Sakambari. At that very period, I shall slay the great asura named Durgamba. Thereby I shall have the celebrated name of Durga Devi, and again, assuming a terrible form on the mountain Himalaya, I shall destroy the Rakshasas for the protection of the Munis. Then all the Munis, bowing their bodies reverently, shall praise me, and thereby I shall have the celebrated name of Biman Devi. When Asura named Aruna shall work great havoc in the three worlds, having taken a collective bee form consisting of innumerable bees, I shall slay the great Asura for the good of the world. And then the people shall laud me everywhere as Brahmari. Thus, whenever trouble arises due to the advent of the Danavas, I shall incarnate and destroy the fools. Here ends the 11th chapter called Hymn to Narayani of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarani. The Devi said, and whoever with a concentrated mind shall pray to me constantly with these hymns, I shall without doubt put down every trouble of his. And those who shall laud the story of the destruction of Madhu and Ketaba, the slaughter of Mahishasura, and the slaying of Shumba and Nishumba likewise, and those also who shall listen with devotion to this sublime poem on my greatness on the 8th and 14th and on the 9th days of the fortnight, with concentrated mind, to them nothing wrong shall happen, nor calamities that arise from wrongdoings, nor poverty, and never separation from beloved ones. He shall not experience fear from enemies, or from robbers and kings, or from weapons, fire and flood. Hence this poem of my greatness must be chanted by men of concentrated minds and listened to always with devotion, for it is the supreme course of well-being. May this poem of my glories quell all epidemic calamities, as also the threefold natural calamities. The place of my sanctuary where this poem is duly chanted every day, I will never forsake, and there my presence is certain. When sacrifice is offered during worship, in the fire ceremony, and at a great festival, all this poem on my acts must be chanted and heard. I will accept with love the sacrifice and worship that are made in the fire offering that is offered likewise, whether they are done with due knowledge of sacrifice or not. During autumnal season, when the great annual worship is performed, the man hearing this glorification of mine with devotion shall certainly, through my grace, be delivered without doubt from all troubles and be blessed with riches, grains, and children. Hearing this glorification and auspicious appearance of mine, my feats of prowess in battle, a man becomes fearless. Enemies perish, welfare accrues, and the family rejoices for those who listen to this glorification of mine. Let one listen to this glorification of mine everywhere, at a propitiatory ceremony, on seeing a bad dream, and when there is the great evil influence of planets. By that means evil portents subside, as also the unfavorable influence of planets, and the bad dream seen by men turns into a good dream. It creates peacefulness in children possessed by the seizures of children, and it is the best promoter of friendship among men when split occurs in their union. It diminishes most effectively the power of all men of evil ways. Verily, demons, goblins, and ogres are destroyed by its mere chanting. This entire glorification of mine draws a devotee very near to me, and by means of finest cattle, flowers, agya, and incenses, and by perfumes and lamps, by feeding brahmanas, by oblations, by sprinkling consecrated water, and by various other offerings and gifts, if one worships day and night in a year, the gratification which is done to me is attained by listening but once to this holy story of mine. The chanting and hearing of the story of my manifestations remove sins, and grant perfect health and protect one from evil spirits. And when my martial exploit in that form of the slaughter of the wicked deities is listened to, men will have no fear from enemies, and the hymns uttered by you, and all those by the divine sages, and those by Brahma, bestow a pious mind. He who is lost on a lonesome spot in a forest, or surrounded by forest fire, or who is surrounded by robbers in a desolate spot, or who is captured by enemies, or who is pursued by a lion or tiger, or by wild elephants in a forest, or who, under the orders of a wrathful king, is sentenced to death, or has been imprisoned, or who is tossed about in his boat by a tempest in the vast sea, or who is in the most terrible battle under shower of weapons, or who is amidst all kinds of dreadful troubles, or who is afflicted with pain, such a man, on remembering this story of mine, is saved from his strait. Through my power, lions, etc., robbers and enemies flee from a distance from him who remembers this story of mine. The Rishi said, having spoken thus, the adorable Chandika, fierce in prowess, vanished on that very spot, even as the Devas were gazing on. Their foes having been killed, all the Devas also were delivered from fear. All of them resumed their own duties as before, and participated in their shares of sacrifices. When the exceedingly valorous Shumba and Nishumba, the most fierce foes of Devas, who brought ruin on the world, and who were unparalleled in prowess, had been slain by the Devi in battle, the remaining deities went away to Patala. Then, O king, the adorable Devi, although eternal, incarnating again and again, protects the world. By her, this universe is deluded, and it is she who creates this universe. And when entreated, she bestows supreme knowledge, and when propitiated, she bestows prosperity. By her, the Mahakali, who takes the form of the great destroyer at the end of time, all this cosmic sphere is pervaded. She indeed takes the form of the great destroyer at the proper time. She, the unborn, indeed becomes this creation at the time proper for recreation. She herself, the eternal being, sustains the beings at another time. In times of prosperity, she indeed is Lakshmi, who bestows the prosperity in the houses of men. And in times of misfortune, she herself becomes the goddess of misfortune and brings about ruin. When praised and worshipped with flowers, incense, perfumes, etc., she bestows wealth and sons and a mind bent on righteousness and prosperous life. Here ends the 12th chapter, called Eulogy of the Merits of Devi Mahatmya in the Markandeya Purana during the period of Sarvani the Muni. The Rishi said, I have now narrated to you, O king, this sublime poem on the glory of the Devi. The Devi is endowed with such majestic power. By her this world is upheld. Knowledge is similarly conferred by her, the elusive power of Bhagavan Vishnu. By her, you, this merchant, and other men of discrimination are being deluded, and others were deluded in the past and will be deluded in the future. O great king, take refuge in her, the supreme Ishvari. She indeed, when worshipped, bestows on men enjoyment, heaven, and final release from transmigration. Markandeya said to his disciple Baguri, O great sage, King Surata, who had become despondent consequent on his excessive attachment and the deprivation of his kingdom, and the merchant, having heard this speech, prostrated before the illustrious Rishi of severe penances, and immediately repaired to perform austerities. Both king and merchant, in order to obtain a vision of Amba, stationed themselves on the sandbank of a river and practiced penances, chanting the supreme Devi Sutta, hymn to the Devi. Having made an earthen image of the Devi on the sands of the river, they both worshipped her with flowers, incense, fire, and libation of water. Now abstaining from food, and now restraining on their food, With their minds on her and with the concentration, they both offered sacrifices sprinkled with blood drawn from their own bodies. When they, with controlled minds, propitiated her thus for 3 years, Chandika, the upholder of the world, was well pleased and spoke to them in visible form. The Devi said, "What you solicit, O king, and you, the delight of your family, receive all that from me. When pleased, I bestow those to you both." Markandeya said, "Then the king chose a kingdom imperishable even in another life, and in this life itself his own kingdom, wherein the power of his enemies is destroyed by force. Then the wise merchant also, whose mind was full of dispassion for the world, chose that knowledge which removes the attachment in the form of mine and I. The Devi said, 'O king, after slaying your foes in a few days, you shall obtain your own kingdom, and it shall last with you there. And when you are dead, you shall gain another birth from the Deva Vishvasat, the sun, and shall be a Manu on earth by name Sarvani. And O the best of merchants, I grant you the boon which you have desired of me. Supreme knowledge shall be yours for your self-realization.' Markandeya said, having thus granted them both the boon that each desired, the Devi disappeared forthwith as they were extolling her with devotion. Having thus gained the boon from Devi, Surata, the foremost of Kshatriyas, shall obtain a new birth through Surya and of his wife Sarvana, and she shall be the Manu, 8th, named Sarvani, shall be the Manu named Sarvani. Here ends the 13th chapter called the bestowing of boons to Surata and Vaishya, Devi Mahatmyam, in Markandeya Purana during the period of Sarvani the Manu. Here ends the Devi Mahatmyam of 700 mantras. Om Tat Sat Om Tamiva Sakshan Shri Adishakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha.